best, so I stand over here. Hello, bom dia. That's the extent of my Portuguese. Very happy to be here. My name is Dr. Amanda Parks. Thank you so much for the invitation from Febretex and from Anna, our joint venture partner in Portugal, which is how I got connected. So as you learned, I'm a fashion scientist and one of the founding team and the Chief Innovation Officer of PANGAIA. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our business model and our new material programs that we have going on in terms of research. So, PANGAIA was founded at the intersection of purpose, science, and design, and we are simultaneously working on R&D in materials and creating a whole new materials library that is in conjunction with natural systems. And we think of ourselves as a global collective where we have a kind of community objective from scientists, technologies, designers to make fantastic, innovative products that are beautiful. So you might know us, this is how we're mostly known for our tracksuits, which went viral during COVID. We're about 3.5 years old, so we were just growing at the beginning of COVID, and these were great work from home gear, very soft, fuzzy tracksuits. But there's a whole lot more beyond the brand, and I'm gonna show you a quick video.
To those who care, what if we could turn flowers into coats, air into ink, grapes into leather? Let us introduce you to the greatest inventor of all time, nature. And us humans as its best creative partners. Because our actions now will define life on Earth for the next 100 years. This is why we innovate. For a planet where both humans and nature thrive.
So this is really the goal. We're living in a time where we are no longer trying to take advantage of nature. We're not trying to overwhelm it. We're trying to live in conjunction with it and rebalance our relationship with nature. And this is how we see this needing to happen across industries, and we're taking on fashion as one of the first places where we can do this. So the biotech revolution, the idea of biofabrication, everything that we know how to do with natural materials, augmented with science, is where we're coming from. So how are we doing this? We're trying to build an earth-positive business model, which is both a goal and a philosophy, where we're basically giving back more than we take. And we're doing it through the combination of taking care of the planet, all their environmental concerns, biodiversity, climate action. We're looking after people, both the people in our system as well as everybody who works inside of our supply chain and our customers. And then we're moving towards positive change through innovative materials and circularity of our processes. So I get asked often, if you are really truly into sustainability, how do you actually justify putting more products into the world and having a fashion brand? Because that's potentially inherently wasteful. But I like to think about this philosophy on economics called donut economics, which is how we can sort of think about how we can have human creativity and growth but still protect the earth. So this is about living inside the space of the donut, the safe and just space for humanity. So you have a floor of a safe foundation, a social foundation, and an ecological ceiling, which you do not go outside of. So, oops. So basically, this is showing what are the different things we need to be concerned about, and here's where we're sitting with overshot, right? Here's how the world is actually working. But what we're trying to do is move our business inside of this donut space. So the material philosophy that I've developed for the brand is what we call high-tech naturalism. And this is looking at the world from a place of abundance. So what do we have that we can utilize easily? Things like agricultural waste, weeds, and all the way up through things that we've created in excess like carbon. So this is where we start thinking about the systems of use, and then we apply the highest levels of science and technology to augment those natural systems. So this is about technology working in conjunction with sustainability. I come from a more traditional tech background, and there was always two forms of research, one towards performance and functionality, and one towards something sustainable. And those paths need to merge back up, and the space of biological systems is where they can do that. So here are some of our research and impact pillars. We work very closely together as an R&D team on innovation and a whole impact team looking at environmental impact, and every project is developed in conjunction with that. And this is where we're putting together our basically our Earth positive business model through following these together. And then looking at our actual R&D pillars, which cover, getting rid of fossil fuels from the fashion supply chain, promoting biodiversity, looking at water health and toxicity, cruelty-free, practices around anything with animals, and then just in general waste reduction across the board. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of these products as we get in. So, and the way that we have our innovation planned out for the brand is we have some products that are kind of best in class and moving towards small changes, and that's what we think of as evolution of new materials. Then we have revolutions, which are like the next level of a new material, the next breakthrough. And then there are some disruptive technologies, things like carbon utilization, things that are kind of breakthrough, entirely new systems which need whole new manufacturing, which takes a lot longer and a bigger transformation. And we try to plan our releases, and we have research going on that's stuff that will be released in 6 months, stuff that will be released in 2, and stuff that might be out in 5, 6, 8 years, right? Really thinking long term about the future of the fashion industry. And we also have a business model where we have a direct-to-consumer brand while also having B2B sales. So we sell to other brands and even beyond just fashion labels, but anything kind of involved in textiles and looking at waste valorization. So we actually are trying to open up our innovation library to share with the rest of the industry, because that's how we make positive change more quickly, as well as it helps our bottom line. We have different revenue streams from that. So a couple of our, summary of our portfolio of materials, and I'll talk a little bit more about these as we go down, but we've developed some of our own materials that we patent and trademark and produce, and that's where Anna comes in with our joint venture for research and production in Portugal. And we also work a lot with startup partners for things that are kind of very far out there, thinking about things like I mentioned, carbon sinking, so working with a startup in Silicon Valley that is actually doing what they call industrial photosynthesis and taking CO2 from air and turning it into the base plastic for polycarbonate lenses of sunglasses. And so a few more things from our material portfolio. What are some of the problems that we have with the existing system, right? We all know that traditional cotton, it has a lot of issues in terms of what it does to the land and the use of resources and pesticides. So we're transitioning all of our cotton to regenerative. We already have fully organic, and we've invested in farms inside of this space. We are also, excuse me, I put some of this up here in Portuguese. I used Google Translate, so please excuse the grammar. I just thought it might be helpful for you to try to be able to read some of this text. So apologies if it doesn't. We are also looking at alternatives to cotton, so other amazing fibers out in the world that you can actually start to utilize for materials that are just as soft. And right now I'm wearing a pineapple shirting. We have a bunch of other uses for banana, bamboo, seaweed, and we have something called fruit fiber, plant fiber, and I have some samples if you want to test it out. But this idea that we can start to really make these blends that really could compete with cotton. And one of the reasons I am excited about being in Brazil is to look at these supply chains, because you have all the raw material resources, and we've been working on what we really need to do is scale up the processing so that we can bring the costs down to compete with cotton. So we stop destroying land to grow more cotton, because we have all the waste that we need out there. So this is our plant and fruit fiber. Some of this stuff is on sale right now. And then we also have seaweed fiber, which is made from regenerative seaweed, and we're starting a new project around waste valorization of sargassum, which we all know has been a huge pollution problem. So we're going to turn that into a resource. That's what I'm starting next month out in Puerto Rico. Himalayan nettle is also an incredible fiber. We work with a women's collective in the Himalayas, and incredibly strong fiber, which figuring out how to process it has been a key element in our denim lines. We also work, of course, with waste, and Anna's going to tell you more about some of our work with Valerius on this, but we're looking at using all of our pre-consumer waste and respinning it into textiles that you blend colors and you know what you're going to get. So, this was a fun project to think about for the designers. Here's all your waste. What can you create with the waste creatively? And then flower down. This was our first patented technology. This is an alternative to animal down, which basically, there's lots of problems with the down industry in terms of cruelty to animal and animal practices and the environmental footprint. But all the alternatives right now, which are called vegan, are actually made of petrochemicals, basically fossil fuel inputs. So this is an alternative that's 100% bio-based. It's made from a particular waste wildflower augmented with biopolymer and cellulosic aerogel. So the whole formulation is compostable. And this is a great example of what I call high-tech naturalism. Take something that's sort of, low end like a weed and augment it with one of the most advanced materials in the world, aerogel. And then you have increased functionality that you can use in things like our puffer jacket line. So this is all 100% compostable. Also, huge issue with biosynthetics. We know that 60% of all clothing in the world has some form of synthetic, and we're working a lot with new formulations of chemistries that are 100% bio-based and also 100% biodegradable. You'll see some new stuff from us in early 2024. And we also right now have plant-based activewear. So it's not perfect yet, but we're moving more and more towards how do we have synthetic blends which have a similar end-of-life profile, whether they be biodegradable or they start as 100% bio-based. And this is really the holy grail to get spandex to a point where it is 100% made of bio-based inputs. Leather, huge space, of course, for disruption. And we work both with 100% bio-based leathers from collaboration with a company called Miram. And this is some of the samples of that, as well as future work, which is in lab-grown leather. So biofabrication, actually using animal cells, but in the lab. So much more sustainable because you're not actually using the resources to grow the whole animal. You're just creating the leather itself. And then another huge thing in the biofabrication space is brewed protein, for example, from spider silk. So we work closely with a company in Japan called Spiber to create one of the first ever biofabricated hoodies. I'll show you a quick video here. I think. Sorry. So yeah, the possibilities for the strength and qualities of spider silk that's biofabricated is extensive. I mentioned this project earlier. This is collaborating with 12 on carbon capture to make the polycarbonate for the lenses. And this is a quick video on their process, which involves literally taking CO2 from the air and transforming into base chemicals. And the process gives off oxygen and water. It's literally photosynthesis. So we're the first product to be made from this process. It's still very expensive, by the way. They will be scaling it. Everything that we do has a path towards commercialization. It's not concept, but right now we're still working with things that are in the lab and trying to get out some of the first commercial versions of a lot of things. Same thing, of course, huge issues with dyeing. I don't have to talk to this audience about it, but what can we do in this space? This is a collaboration which we've done at RDD and with the company Colorifics on lab-grown bacterial-based dyes. And I'll just show you a quick video on that. So we're literally taking the DNA from various organisms in the world, the part of the DNA that makes the color, transposing it into a single-celled organism and growing that organism in a bioreactor, which literally produces the color itself as the dye. So it's a live bacterial dye. And another innovation in the ink space, this is the idea of taking, is a collaboration with a company called Air Ink, where you take pollution, like literal black soot from factories, you clean it, detoxify it, and turn it into a fully sustainable ink. And it's actually perfect. Nature makes the perfect carbon black for us instead of using synthetic dyes. So we did this collaboration very early on to get this onto the print of all of our garments. And then last thing is the invisible toxins of fashion, right? So surface treatments, all the things that we can have a fully organic cotton garment and then treat it with something that actually makes it quite toxic or prevents it from breaking down and biodegrading. So looking at what the kind of future of surface treatments is. And we use, for example, on all of our garments, a peppermint oil treatment, which is an anti-odor treatment, and it's 100% natural, but it works so that you don't have to wash your garments as long, but it doesn't have any toxic chemicals in the production and in the coating. We also are working with something that's very advanced, multiplex laser surface enhancement. I'm really excited about this with a company called MTIX, and we've just installed the machine in Anna's facility. But this is using a high-frequency laser with natural gases, so there's no water, no chemicals, no toxins, and it can do things like water repellency, dye prep, print prep. We're looking at it for actually microfiber mitigation. We've had some great results in that area. So it's literally a programmable laser. So programming the kind of periodic table is really the next level of working with, what can we do with the kind of abundance of science and nature. And then last, this is our newest release, which is actually a body bar of soap. But I just thought I'd bring this up here because it's the first ever implementation with a company called Seek16, which is making a palm-free palm oil. So it's biofabricated in a lab, but I think you know all the problems of palm oil and cutting down rainforests. So this is literally a way for us to never have to do that. And this is biofabricated. This just was released in Selfridges also with a collaboration with a manufacturer called Heckles. So. In London. And then just a couple of last things. We also have transparency in how we use a brand. We work with a company called Eon to provide QR codes, and we'll be upgrading eventually to NFC tags, more tech, to have a relationship with our customers. But this allows us to show you the life cycle of everything. I have a quick video. So you can scan the garment, find out everything that's in it, where it was made, and we can continuously upgrade and upload. And we've just launched also a resale program with them, which allows you to be able, if you want to sell your garment or buy something back from PANGAIA, this is the next generation to have a kind of closed loop with all of our customers through this platform, this data platform. We've also done life cycle assessments on about 96% of our products, and going extensively back into the supply chain, visiting it, et cetera, working with an outside company, Green Story, to validate all of our data, and all this is available. We also have an impact report. I also like to talk about communication in science, and we have a problem with greenwashing in the industry, so we like to really underclaim. I'm constantly telling journalists, no, don't say that, that's an overclaim. We really want to be humble about what we're doing, be clear about where we're going, so that we show confidence to the public that we have a path towards sustainability, but be very clear about where we are along that path. And then also thinking about, we're moving a little bit more into physical retail, and now that the world has opened back up, and we want to do something to justify the carbon footprint of our retail. And so this was our first pop-up in Selfridges. We have sort of some small spaces in department stores, and we used it to educate about our materials. You can see we put in science. It's kind of a science display, compost pile, kind of trying to reconnect everything that we're doing with the clothes back into nature. We've also built a huge community to support the brand. We don't pay celebrities. We try to have a kind of organic representation of kind of who's out there online for us. And then also we have a philanthropic arm where we're giving back in various ways, and we're launching at COP this year a huge new platform called Be the Change, which is about biodiversity promotion through saving bees. And thank you. That's it for me.
So, thank you so much, Amanda, for this amazing presentation. Are you coming from planet Earth? So, wow, it's incredible to see how much things have been developed and how much things we need to learn to become the fashion industry more sustainable. Here, an example. Thank you so much. So now we'll pass to Anna. Please, Anna, stage is yours.
So now, Amanda, I'll switch to Portuguese, as you know very well what I'm going to say. So, bom dia a todos. É um gosto estar aqui mais uma vez, em Blumenau, pela terceira. A primeira vez representando a Tintex, a segunda o CITEV e agora a terceira a RDD. Entidades que continuam aqui e, portanto, é um bom sinal. Jordana, a equipa da Febratex, obrigada por nos receberem sempre tão bem. Fazendo um pequeno enquadramento, vou tentar falar devagar para conseguirem perceber tudo aquilo que eu vou dizer. A RDD nasce dentro daquilo que nós agora chamamos em Portugal Valérios Hub. O que é Valérios Hub? A Valérios é o maior grupo têxtil português neste momento. Temos empresas em todos os segmentos da cadeia têxtil, desde o nosso centro de reciclagem, onde temos também a nossa fiação, em que reciclamos materiais têxteis, desperdícios de confecção, até malharia, tinturaria, estamparia, lavandaria e confecção. E a RDD nasce em 2019, em 2017, dentro deste ecossistema têxtil que foi criado por o fundador da empresa, que era funcionário da Valérios. Em 2017, quando a empresa estava numa fase de quase falência, decidiu comprar a empresa e criou então o que é hoje o maior grupo têxtil português. Nós estamos localizados maioritariamente no norte de Portugal. Temos também uma empresa em Lisboa e temos também uma unidade de confecção em Marrocos. O nosso modelo de negócio dentro da Valérios é algo muito único em Portugal, porque nós não somos verdadeiramente um grupo vertical. Todas as empresas trabalham de forma independente e funcionamos todos como fornecedores e clientes uns dos outros, o que facilita em muito as operações, porque cada um tem os seus clientes, cada um tem os seus interesses, mas temos em todas as nossas empresas as portas abertas para colaborarmos e experimentarmos novas coisas. Desde a investigação e desenvolvimento, que é agora muito feito pela nossa empresa, pela RDD, até ao design, 3D, a reciclagem, a fiação, a estamparia, tudo isto são empresas que nós temos e que funcionam como um todo, ainda que separadamente, com atividades separadas. Temos várias certificações na cadeia de valor, isto não é nada de novo mesmo aqui para vocês. E, portanto, a RDD, como eu disse, nasceu em 2017, tem neste momento 12 recursos humanos. Temos 12 pessoas de áreas diversas, desde economia até marketing, até biologia, engenharia química. Eu sou engenheira química de formação base, e trabalhamos muito para criar aquilo que são materiais mais responsáveis ou alternativos à produção convencional têxtil. Nós temos duas empresas de malhas, duas malharias, exatamente porque quando a RDD nasceu, ambos os negócios, que são um pouco diferentes, começaram a crescer. Temos a malharia convencional, onde trabalhamos os materiais que alguns dos nossos clientes ainda procuram, o algodão convencional, o poliéster, a viscose. Trabalhamos todas essas fibras, mas a parte de investigação e desenvolvimento tornou-se muito forte na nossa empresa, e principalmente quando criamos a relação mais próxima que temos também com a PANGAIA, que acabou por entrar na estrutura acionista da nossa empresa. Nós decidimos criar esta nova entidade independente, e, portanto, a RDD neste momento é apenas focada naquilo que são os materiais e processos alternativos. Basicamente, o que nós tentamos fazer com a PANGAIA, mas também com todos os outros nossos clientes, é identificar um problema, todos aqueles problemas que a Amanda mencionou anteriormente, contactar empresas, startups que estejam a desenvolver alternativas para solucionar estes problemas, fazer a exploração tecnológica, o scale-up industrial, provar que é possível e comercializar estes produtos. Nós temos algumas das soluções que a Amanda falou, nós temos já implementadas e comercialmente disponíveis. Uma delas é o Colorifix, aqueles calções que podem ver ali vestidos no manequim, são exatamente tingidos com este processo. Como puderam ver no vídeo, um processo em que nós temos um bioreator dentro da nossa fábrica, é um processo como um fermentador para a cerveja, e crescemos bactérias e tingimos com o pigmento que essas bactérias produzem. Outra das soluções que nós temos é o tingimento com desperdício têxtil, ou seja, nós temos desperdícios nas nossas confecções. Fizemos uma parceria com uma empresa italiana que faz um pó, ou seja, pulveriza estes resíduos e permite-nos tingir utilizando este pó. Outras soluções que nós temos, e não entrando muito em detalhe, são 3 diferentes pigmentos pretos que nos permitem fazer estamparia ou tingimento à peça em várias fibras. E portanto, utilizar, como toda a gente que trabalha na indústria da moda sabe, o preto é a cor mais procurada, é a cor mais usada e não existe na natureza. Portanto, há uma pesquisa muito intensiva naquilo que é a alternativa ao preto na indústria da moda. Estes 3 pigmentos, o Nature Coatings, o M-Black e o Living Ink, são 3 pigmentos que vêm provenientes de fontes alternativas de preto. Uma delas é o cânhamo, outra delas são as algas, este Living Ink, e outra delas são resíduos da indústria da madeira. E, portanto, tudo isto disponível na natureza e que normalmente se tornaria um resíduo se não fosse utilizado para este fim. Algumas das coisas, nós, apesar de termos uma parceria muito forte com a PANGAIA, temos outros clientes que lançam também alguns destas tecnologias e, portanto, quando a Jordana também me pediu para vir falar aqui, foi no sentido de mostrar que há um negócio diferente a acontecer na indústria da moda, e todas estas tecnologias que nós fizemos o scale-up e que trouxemos para o mercado são exatamente a prova disso, que há uma outra economia a acontecer, há uma economia que é baseada na biodiversidade. Ontem o Brás Costa apresentou o projeto da bioeconomia. Tudo isto está muito relacionado com aquilo que, pelo menos na Europa, já está a acontecer. Vai permitir-nos chegar a atingir aquilo que são os objetivos para um desenvolvimento mais sustentável, que até agora para nós era ainda muito de boca, portanto não era nada formal, e a partir de agora vai passar a ser obrigatório. Nós vamos passar a ter targets, vamos ter que comunicar aquilo que fazemos e, portanto, eu acho que estes exemplos são o perfeito exemplo de que isso já está mesmo a acontecer e está no mercado. Outra das coisas que nós temos dentro do nosso ecossistema é exatamente a parte dos reciclados, que neste momento está em forte crescimento. Eu acho que é a empresa do nosso grupo que mais trabalho tem neste momento. Portanto, nós temos uma unidade também no norte de Portugal. E aquilo que nós fazemos na RDD é desenvolver materiais com estes fios. Portanto, aquele hoodie que podem ver na parte de cima, o laranja, é uma peça da PANGAIA, que foi lançada pela PANGAIA, foi desenvolvida pela RDD, com materiais do 360. Nós, basicamente, levamos aquilo que é o nosso desejo de malha, e explicamos que precisamos deste fio ou daquele fio com aquela cor, e temos este trabalho conjunto de desenvolvimento para poder suprir aquilo que são as necessidades dos nossos clientes, quer em termos de tendências, mas também em termos de performance dos materiais. Basicamente, o nosso processo começa com uma recolha e uma separação de resíduos têxteis de confecção. Começamos a trabalhar com as empresas do grupo. Neste momento estamos a recolher de várias empresas em Portugal e não só. Temos uma parte inicial onde fazemos o corte, o amaciamento, fazemos fardos e, portanto, fazemos a desfibragem destes resíduos e depois fazemos novos fios. E, portanto, tudo isto acaba por se transformar num processo de criação que os nossos tipo de clientes, como a PANGAIA e outros, procura e cada vez mais a exigência, digamos assim, é maior. Nós neste momento temos uma capacidade de produção de fibra reciclada instalada em cerca de 20 toneladas por dia, na parte da fiação 7 toneladas dia e para fazer isto tudo utilizamos cerca de 600 toneladas por mês de desperdício, o que para mim é impressionante a primeira vez que eu vi a fábrica, porque somos uma fábricazinha num país super pequenininho e mesmo assim conseguimos ter este volume de desperdício. Portanto, isto mostra que o modelo de negócio do têxtil e se calhar de outras indústrias, mas do têxtil tem mesmo que mudar, porque a quantidade de desperdício que nós produzimos ainda é muito alta e se calhar muitas das coisas que nós temos disponíveis, não estamos a olhar para elas com o valor que elas efetivamente têm. E, portanto, nós fazemos maioritariamente fios open-end, com NEs de 8 até 30, que nos permitem desenvolver praticamente todo o tipo de artigos de moda, sejam mais desportivos, sejam mais streetwear, sejam mais fashion, conseguimos desenvolver. E à parte disso temos também uma unidade de produção de papel, que nós chamamos de papel de algodão, porque durante o processo de reciclagem têxtil temos desperdício e temos fibras que também ficam muito curtas e que não conseguimos usar para a fiação. Então o que o nosso fundador da Valéris pensou foi: ok, vamos arranjar uma alternativa e tentar utilizar tudo aquilo que nós temos aqui para fazer alguma coisa e não descartar. Então vamos tentar produzir celulose a partir do algodão. Portanto, eu não sei se toda a gente sabe, mas imagino que muitos de vocês saibam, o algodão é a fonte mais pura de celulose no mundo, portanto, no planeta, e portanto nós extraímos, basicamente fazemos uma polpa de celulose com estas fibras que não conseguimos usar para fios e produzimos papel. E portanto aquilo que nós colocamos para produzir o papel, se o desperdício for verde, o papel vai ser verde, se o desperdício for amarelo, o papel vai ser amarelo, mas também conseguimos produzir em cru, porque também temos alguns desperdícios que são em cru. E portanto, isto é assim um bocadinho daquilo que nós fazemos lá. Muitas das tecnologias que a Amanda também falou na apresentação dela são o scale-up para a parte industrial, é feito por nós, somos um parceiro produtivo e, portanto, acho que demonstra muitas das conversas que temos tido, não só na Europa, mas também aqui com algumas empresas no Brasil, que podemos fazer acontecer coisas diferentes e há modelos de negócio a serem implementados que nos vão permitir fazer negócio, continuar a fazer negócio, continuar a manter o pilar económico da sustentabilidade a valer, mas fazê-lo de forma diferente. E, portanto, essa é muito a nossa visão e, portanto, nós estamos cá no Brasil para mostrar-vos aquilo que fazemos, mas também à procura de novas parcerias, novos interesses. Estamos abertos a receber-vos também em Portugal. Obrigada.
Bom, muito obrigada, Ana. Bom, como puderam ver e como podem ver, estamos perante duas mulheres que estão a fazer história no mundo da moda, não é? Que é um prazer poder conversar com elas agora, então vou fazer algumas questões e depois, se ainda tivermos tempo, que já não resta muito, porque elas também já explicaram tudo, portanto as apresentações foram muito completas, podemos dar lugar a algumas questões do público. So, first question, Amanda. You entered the fashion industry for the back door, right? Yeah. Do you think that that was an advantage, like to be disruptive and to become a fashion star like you are?
I don't know if I'm a star, but yeah, I think it was a way to take some of the I think anything interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary just gives new perspectives into industry. So that's just generally important about education and kind of industry. But I was able to take lessons from the tech industry, things that they actually are good at, which is owning the means of their own production and kind of designing the future of the industry. So you have Apple and Google doing research internally, and they're projecting what they want their industry to be 5, 8, 10 years out. That wasn't happening in big fashion groups. They weren't making their own textiles and doing their own innovation. It was a different kind of input. So that part we very much incorporated. But it is also difficult in the sense of fashion is a very specific industry with, speaking the same, getting the crossover in the language. I think a lot about what I do is scientific diplomacy, talking to fashion people, talking to science people, and trying to get them to communicate properly. So,
Great. Anna, what is a common vision and values for a good relation for this partnership between you and PANGAIA, or RDD and PANGAIA? I mean, how many times do you say this is gonna work? It's not possible what you are asking. I cannot scale it on production. It's an amazing idea, but my client will not pay that. So this is a kind of things, because of course this is on the lab, and research is amazing, but sometimes the gap between the production and the scalability of these processes are a challenge. So how do you manage that when these crazy ideas comes through your...
Yeah, it's challenging actually, because all of these processes here we just see the glamour, right? So
Exactly.
what is already made, what was already developed, so it's stable and it's commercially available. But to do that, you need a lot of different competencies that you normally don't have in the fashion industry. That's the most important thing, I have to say. So, and yesterday I was listening also to some presentations and talking about services and so on. And yes, service, I guess it's very important. It's you cannot work with any client without a good service. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that the people that is working and the material that you are using are the most important thing for an industry like Portugal, at least, because we are not competing for price, we are not competing for quality, because there is quality all around the world, mm-hmm. Not just in Portugal. And I do believe that partnerships with PANGAIA, which is so they call themselves a material science brand. Mm-hmm. I am a big fan of the material science. I do believe that the material will be the next revolution. So the fashion industry will change not only with services, but the big change will be on how we use the materials and in which kind of materials we use. So we are in Brazil, in a country that produces cotton. So it's difficult to say that cotton will disappear. So I don't believe that it will disappear, but it will change. The consumption for cotton will change. Probably we will have different types of cotton coming in, like the organic cotton already came, the regenerative cotton that is there. So I do believe that being challenged from brands like we are, mm-hmm. from PANGAIA and others as well, it's good for the team to keep the mindset on new innovation. So in innovation, you know, so it's hard to scale, but we know that it's the only way. When we have clients and partnerships like this, I believe and I see on my team that they do believe that this is the only way, so we don't want to do any conventional, we're just going to do what's difficult to do and what the others don't do yet.
So,
just one thing to add to that, is that it's not, there's nothing inherently wrong with cotton, right? It's an amazing fiber. That it's just, we've just over-industrialized it, and we're growing too much of it in the wrong places. So that's why we talk about rebalancing nature and biodiversity. We want to use cotton where it grows naturally and where we can have responsible practices, and then use other fibers like banana, pineapple, and nettle, I mean, all the other things out in the world, seaweed, to make different blends and for different functionality. So yeah, cotton's not going anywhere. We just need to scale it back and make it responsible.
Thank you. So we have 1 minute left. I have so many questions, but I will just prioritize on one. So, do you think that fashion industry is near a big revolution? I mean, fast fashion is getting out of fashion, and if yes, who's going to dress like medium and low class people?
I think it's a slow revolution. I think the one thing that has changed in the last maybe 3 years is there's started to be investment more and more, especially in materials. There was like I was working in wearable tech kind of going back about 8 years, and there was some money flowing in that. But we've moved out of the Silicon Valley phase of only funding apps to help out, right? We're realizing that we need to have investment in sustainable and impact businesses across the board, not just in fashion. So when it's sort of like follow the money, so the change will happen much more quickly now that the money is streaming in from Silicon Valley, and then other kind of areas of the world will start to kind of follow suit. So slow revolution. And also fashion practices, they do need to change slowly. Biotech research is no joke. It's like pharmaceutical. It does not work at the fashion scale. 7 years is a reasonable amount of time to get something out of a biotech company. So we also have to keep that in mind. We can't just accelerate it. Even with all the money in the world, you can't rush the biology.
Anna, do you think that fast fashion is going to fish, or
I think it depends on what we call fast fashion. So because all of us, and I guess everybody in this room will think the same, at least or in Europe, and here you have other brands. When we say fast fashion, the first name that comes to mind is Inditex. So in Europe is like that. So Zara brought the fast fashion to the world. But if you think about how it was born and what was the motto for that, it was affordable fashion for all, right? So this was not made with a bad intention, I guess. So I think the business model of the fast fashion brands will also change. I mean, maybe they will sell less at higher prices. I do believe that, and yesterday someone was telling as well that textiles are at the moment, so fashion is expensive. So I do not think so that is expensive, because if we pay 1,000 euros for a phone, why don't we are able to pay, or we are not willing to pay a little bit more for our clothes, because we see our clothes as waste in the end, and we never look into other materials like this, right? So I think it's the way that we value the textile materials that will change this, and it will slow down maybe the pace of the so-called fast fashion. So
great answer. All right, so we are out of time. I have one last question. Amanda, how can you advise the industrial Brazilian owners to start this change? Okay, because they are keeping production to fulfill their customers, and they need to make this shift. And what would be your advices, the priorities to start to be more closer to a PANGAIA business model or something?
Well, I think first of all, I don't pretend to understand the economy here or anything, but I think the thing that attracts me here is the idea that you have so many available resources in terms of you have sunlight, water, anything grows here, like anything, and there is so much kind of agriculture and waste, and I think it's really about this investment into kind of further up the supply chain. Can we process these raw materials? Can we start to come together as a collective to kind of work? You also have great scientists in the space and the unbelievable biodiversity, right? There's things here that haven't even been discovered yet that we're going to be able to use for color, et cetera. So if we can start to kind of, it is all about getting the right people together and then getting some money to get the project going on. It's hard. Like, it's not. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but because you have the resources, that's the first step to really, because the other places do not have that. So you have this. You're sitting on this massive opportunity. You have the best soil and everything else. So it's just free resources from that way to kind of use some smart systems and science to get it to work.
Great. One last question to finish, and to both of you. What will you have in your wardrobe in 2030? What are we going to use?
30, only 30?
I don't know what we are going to have, but I'm pretty sure there is nothing digital.
No?
It will be physical, and it will be a material for sure.
I mean, we're definitely going to have a lot more biofabricated things, kind of lab grown. I believe that's definitely coming. And, you know, I'm excited for the future of things like lab grown leather, you know, like just ways that we can really transpose those whole processes really responsibly. And then also the commitment that I've made to myself, like I'm not going to retire before I've made a biodegradable circuit. I came from electronics and wearable tech, and I want the inside of that to be biodegradable and rematerialized. And so textiles is where I'm starting and then moving back towards that.
Well, thank you so much for your time, for your explanation and this so gold information. Muito obrigado a todos. Espero que tenham gostado e bom resto de serão.
Obrigada.
E já agora, se quiserem saber mais sobre moda digital, podem ir ao stand da Samplas. Estamos lá. Obrigado.